Last year, when I was going through a pretty tough time, something ultimately put me through a certain amount of a trauma response. Um, and also in school, I was questioning, how I was teaching, which kind of happens every year. I kind of question, is what I'm doing productive? Is it good? Is it right? Is this the right approach for these specific students? Definitely hits a break every year. So last year, I had this incredible class that actually took place during davening. It was called a davening class, and ultimately, it was really a class about emun and bitachon, uh, faith and trust. But really, really, the faith and trust, the way that I was teaching it, the way that I was approaching it, was not from a place of only reading Sfarim and only reading and only telling them things along those lines, like stories of tzaddikim and stuff. Um, but the approach that I took was very different. I actually was at a Fabringen on the west side, in Mequon in Wisconsin, and Rabbi Menachem Rappaport said something to me, and it struck me, and it kind of led me towards this approach. It kind of lit up for me something that I knew, but first I didn't really bring it into the classroom um, in high school, maybe because I feel like high school, yeshiva high school, is supposed to be a certain way. Which he said that, you know, many years ago, it used to be in our Chabad house, you'd say a sicha from the Rebbe over, a talk from the Rebbe, and certain people would just be on fire. It's all they needed to be lit up. Nowadays, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. What lights people up is when you go to the depth of yourself. When you share yourself, the deep stuff of yourself, your struggles, your victories, your relationship to Hashem, when you talk about what life is like as a yid, that that's what reaches and penetrates people. And I heard that and I understood that. Um, so, anyways, it happened to be that I was going through a very, very tough time. And the way I was coping with it at the time is I would go on my treadmill upstairs, which was a gift from one of the students' parents that I was tutoring at the time that lived in, what's that place called? I'm forgetting what the place called. Maybe that's for a good reason. Um, anyways, so this wonderful family sent me a treadmill. Um, and the way that I would cope with this trauma response, this triggering, is I would go onto the treadmill and I would run as fast as I could for like a good 25 minutes or so. And at the time when I would be going through these types of things, I would talk to Hashem, um, sometimes in English, sometimes in Lashon HaKodesh, asking him, to help me with the circumstance, etc. And then when I'd get off, the endorphins would be running and my mindset would be changed and everything would feel better at the time and lessen the sharper, difficult time periods. Um, so it happened to be, though, on this one day while I was talking to Hashem, things were so tough in the way that my body and my mind and my heart were responding to what was going on, and also the situation itself was tougher than it usually was. So I started to, pour my heart out to Hashem, and then I came to this moment that anyone that davens from the depth of their heart, kind of like, oh, that this is a moment. This is a real moment. It's like an ace rat. So there's something a little bit different where this is going to right now. What was it? Basically, I said to Hashem, I Pasha need to see you. I simply put, I need to see you in my life, in everything. I want to see you in the objects. I want to see you in the people. I want to see you in the animals. I want to see your ashkacha pratis in life. I don't know how, I don't know in what ways, but I know that you're here And I know that at times it feels like you're concealed, but I want to see you. And so I said, this is what I'm going to do. For the next 30 days, I'm going to ask you over and over and over again, constantly, please allow me to see your Ashkacha. Please allow me to see your Ashkacha Pratis. Please allow me to see your divine providence. I know that your words fill everything. I know you're communicating all the time. Show it to me. And if you show it to me every single time that I'm aware of it, I'm going to share it with my classrooms. I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to document it. So I'm going to do that for 30 days. And that was the end of the run. And I was kind of like, whoa, all right. I'm walking around for a month and I'm asking you, Hashem. That night, I was putting my kids to bed and the endorphins helped, but not amazingly. And I was exhausted at about whatever it was, probably 8:30. I put my kids to bed. And I fell asleep while I put them to bed, reading them some books, whatever it was. They were 7 years old at the time. And the strangest thing happened. Strange. Here I am. I'm passed out. And all of a sudden I feel like, huh? And I turn to the side. My son is sleeping out cold, but tapping me to wake up. I'm like, what? It happened 2 or 3 times. I don't remember, but 2 or 3 times. And it wasn't like a tap. It wasn't like a turn around and hit. It was like a wake up. And I was like, oh. And immediately, flashback to the past. And I remember the conversation with Hashem. And I was like, I know you're in everything. And it was like Hashem was saying to me, and obviously this is a personal experience, but it was a real davening. It was a real tefillah. And it was like a preparation for the next day, the next morning. You've got something to tell your students. Wake up. I'm here, even in a sleeping child. So I got out of bed and, whatever it was that I did the rest of the night, I did the rest of the night, but I felt like Hashem was right there with me, kind of like saying, wake up, I'm here. It was an absolutely spectacular moment. And the next day, I went into school and I told the boys what I'm doing over the next 30 days. And I told them what happened the night before with my son. And, I had spoken a lot about Ashkacha Pratis. I had spoken a lot about times where I talked to Hashem and different things that have happened, etc. But here I was out there, like 30 days. This is what I'm doing. This is my avodah as a yid. This is my service. This is what I'm going to do for the next month. And I'm going to now testify openly about what happens. Like it says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear or listen, Israel, Hashem our God, Hashem is one. So on the word Shema, the end of the word, the ayin is written very big, and the dalet is written very big on the word Echad. That the Yidden, I forgot where I see it, but the Yidden are meant to be an aid to the oneness of Hashem, the testimony of Hashem. So like Rabbi Menachem Rappaport said, I'm putting my full self out there. I'm not going to conceal things through Sfarim. I'm going to say, this is what my life is like. This is what I'm going through. This is what happened. This is what I'm asking for actively and consistently all day long. And let's see where the month takes me. And that way you guys can understand a little bit of what it's like to be a Yid like me. That's trying to connect to Hashem through the different Torah that I learned fully and completely. I'm telling you, the month was, I've never had such a month like it before. The amount of clear Ashkacha Pratis that happened was insane. It was to such an extent that by the end of the month, one of my students said, I don't get it, Rabbi Abner. Are you an alien? Like, do you live on a different planet? Because the things that happen to you, they just don't happen to me. And although he did have one thing, happen to him that month. But and a kid that's struggling in his Imuna completely. Um, and I said to him, I said, no, I'm not an alien. I'm not an alien. I'm no different than you. I promise you that. There's one difference in how I act. That's where the difference lies. The difference lies in the fact that I have a emuna and I have bitachon and certain principles and ideas I'm willing to put into reality and see how Hashem responds to me. Pasha beautiful. I want to mention one more thing, just because I don't want to lose it. This Shabbos, there's the last videos that I said that I put here were videos about asking Hashem to direct me to the Sefer that is the most important thing for me to learn. And then, kind of like all of a sudden, certain svarim are the Sefer that I take and open to certain pages, etc. So I I never ever heard someone speak in such a way in public, but it happened to be this Shabbos Mevarchim for the month of Nisan. A rabbi gets up. That doesn't seem like someone that would. I mean, he speaks every week by Sudat Shlishi, and he gives a very short piece in Lashon Hara. He gets up and he gives his normal piece on Lashon Hara, and then he says, "There's something that I have to show you guys." And he holds up a book, a sefer, and he's giving a whole explanation. I know the person who wrote it. His name's not written in the sefer, but he's a big Talmud Chacham. He just doesn't want people to know his name. The book, I think he said, is called Parpiros or something like that. And he's going on and on and on, and then he's like, today, after I finished learning in the Kollel, I looked up at the shelf and I saw this book, and it's like it was calling me. For some reason, I felt like I needed to read it. So I grabbed it and I opened it up to a random page. What was it talking about? It's talking about Pesach. Okay. So I started to read it. And then what in the subject of Pesach was it talking about? Lashon Hara. And he shared a little vart. But it was like, what? So cool. Someone else, like, I can't believe even that little tiny bit of Ashkacha Pratis, like here I am opening up about, asking the depth of the relationship as a person, and trying not to be embarrassed and ashamed of it. Like, this is what I do. These are the things that happen, and it's amazing. And anyone can do the same thing that I'm doing. And here is a Yid, a rabbi, maybe even a Rav, I'm not sure if he's a Rav, that you would never would think outside of the box in such a way, but you could see how he lit up as he was saying that this happened. And it was beautiful. Anyway.